Plato's theory of the soul. Does consciousness live on? For over 2 millennia, Plato's philosophy has influenced our understanding of the soul, consciousness, and the nature of existence. One of his most enduring and debated ideas is the immortality of the soul, an idea that continues to provoke discussions in philosophy, psychology, neuroscience, and even quantum physics. But does consciousness truly persist beyond death? Can modern science find support for Plato's vision of an eternal soul, or is consciousness merely a byproduct of physical processes? Plato's dialogues, particularly Phaedo, Republic, Phaedrus, and Timaeus, offer a deep exploration of the soul's nature, its tripartite structure, its relation to the body, and its fate after death. His theory is not only a foundation for metaphysical thought but also provides ethical and psychological insights into human behavior. In this video, we will take a comprehensive look at Plato's theory of the soul, examining the structure of the soul and its connection to human nature. Plato's arguments for the immortality of the soul. The soul's journey in the afterlife. How his ideas compare to modern scientific and philosophical perspectives on consciousness. By the end of this discussion, we will consider whether Plato's ancient insights hold any validity in the modern quest to understand consciousness and the possibility of life after death. Plato's conception of the soul. For Plato, the soul, psyche, is the essence of a person, the true self that transcends the physical body. Unlike materialist philosophers, who view the mind as a function of the brain, Plato sees the soul as an independent, immaterial entity that exists before birth and survives death. His conception of the soul is deeply influenced by his belief in the theory of forms, the idea that non-physical, perfect forms, or ideas, exist beyond the material world. The soul, being non-physical itself, belongs to this higher realm of forms. The tripartite nature of the soul. In Republic, Plato introduces his famous tripartite theory of the soul. He argues that the soul consists of 3 distinct parts, each governing different aspects of human nature. 1. The rational part, logistikon. This is the highest and most divine part of the soul, responsible for reason, logic, and the pursuit of truth. Philosophers, according to Plato, are those in whom this part dominates. 2. The spirited part, thymoites. The seat of emotions, willpower, and honor. It fuels courage and ambition but must be guided by reason to avoid destructive anger or excessive pride. 3. The appetitive part, epithematikon. Governs physical desires, such as hunger, thirst, and pleasure-seeking impulses. If unchecked, it leads to hedonism and a life dominated by base pleasures. For Plato, justice and harmony in an individual arise when the rational part rules over the spirited and appetitive parts, just as a well-ordered society functions when philosophers govern rather than warriors or merchants. Plato's arguments for the immortality of the soul. Plato offers several arguments for the immortality of the soul, mainly in Phaedo, where Socrates, on the day of his execution, discusses the nature of the soul with his followers. These arguments include the theory of recollection. Plato argues that knowledge is recollection. When we recognize truths, such as mathematical principles or moral concepts, we are not learning them for the first time but recalling knowledge that our soul possessed before birth. This suggests that the soul existed before its current physical form, implying that it will continue to exist after death. B. The argument from opposites. Everything in existence comes from its opposite. Just as wakefulness comes from sleep and sleep from wakefulness, life must come from death and death from life. If life arises from death, then the soul must continue to exist after death in order to return to life again. C. The affinity argument. Plato differentiates between things that are composite, physical bodies, which decay, and things that are simple and eternal, the soul, which is immaterial. Since the soul resembles eternal things rather than decaying physical matter, it must itself be immortal. D. The argument from the soul's indivisibility. Unlike physical objects, which can be broken down into smaller parts, the soul is indivisible. If it cannot be divided, it cannot be destroyed, which further supports its immortality. The soul's journey after death, the myth of error. One of Plato's most famous depictions of the afterlife is found in Republic, in the myth of error. In this myth, a warrior named Er dies in battle but is revived and recounts what he saw in the afterlife. According to his vision, souls are judged based on their actions in life. Just souls ascend to a heavenly realm, while unjust souls are punished. After a period of time, souls choose their next life, influenced by their past actions. Before returning to the physical world, souls drink from the river Lethe, which erases their memories. Plato uses this myth to illustrate his belief in moral justice and reincarnation. It suggests that consciousness, in some form, continues beyond death and plays a role in shaping future lives. Plato's soul theory versus modern science and philosophy. While Plato's theory of the soul was groundbreaking in antiquity, how does it compare with modern theories of consciousness? Dualism versus materialism. Plato's view is a form of substance dualism, later echoed by Descartes, which argues that the mind and body are distinct substances. In contrast, most modern neuroscientists adopt materialism, which holds that consciousness is entirely dependent on the physical brain. B. Near-death experiences, NDEs, and Plato's vision. Some contemporary research on NDEs aligns with Plato's descriptions of the afterlife. Reports of life reviews, encounters with light, and a sense of cosmic justice bear similarities to the myth of error. While skeptics argue that NDEs result from brain activity, others see them as possible evidence of consciousness surviving bodily death. C. Quantum consciousness in Plato. Some modern theories, such as those proposed by Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff, suggest that consciousness may exist in a quantum state, independent of the brain. This aligns with Plato's idea that the soul belongs to a higher, non-physical realm. Does consciousness live on? Plato's philosophy offers a compelling and deeply thought-out vision of consciousness as an immortal, non-physical entity. His arguments for the soul's immortality, its tripartite nature, and its posthumous journey continue to influence discussions in philosophy and science. While modern materialism generally rejects the idea of an immortal soul, unresolved questions about consciousness, NDEs, and quantum mechanics keep the debate open. Could Plato have been onto something when he suggested that our true essence exists beyond the physical world? Perhaps, as Socrates claimed in Phaedo, a true philosopher practices dying not because they seek death, but because they seek the eternal truths that lie beyond it.